Hey everyone, welcome back to Bestie Book Reviews. I'm here with my bestie Mandy.
And I'm here with my bestie Jessica.
So today's video is going to be all of our favorite series. Mandy and I have both chosen 5 of our all-time favorite book series to talk to you guys about today. Mandy doesn't know what I've chosen and I don't know what she's chosen. So this is going to be a fun video for both of us and you guys as well. So I'm going to get us started with my first series. So this series is called the After the Plague series by Emma Keeper. And this one, the books are very short. They're not very long. I know that I can listen to the audio in like an hour and a half. There's only one book that has audio. The first book in the series so far only has audio. And Imogen, which I guess they call her Emmy, according to her her website, but she does the voice for the female character in the book, and she actually does an amazing job. I really like the audio. So it is dual narration, but I listened to the first one. I actually re-listened to it again last night because while I was trying to make this list, I was like, oh, it's been a while. The series is not complete yet. Her next book is actually scheduled to come out here within the next couple months. She's been teasing it already. But this is the story of Frankie and York. So this is, I guess you're going to call it post-apocalyptic, because when we start the book, they call it the Aussie flu. And the Aussie flu has killed, is everybody's getting sick and they're dying. It kills all but 1% of the population. And in the first book, it's a little different because in the first book, we actually see Frankie, who is happily married to her husband, Jimmy. They don't have kids yet. Jimmy is a little bit older than her, and they're living in suburbia outside in Washington. It was in Washington, D.C., so I'm not sure how suburbia it is because I have family there and it's not very suburbia, but they're living just outside of Washington, D.C., and everybody is sick and dying. And it starts out where she's talking to her best friend who lives in New York, and she can tell that her best friend is sick. And this book, it gets emotional because in the end, as we get going, Frankie's on her own. And then she gets found, not necessarily the first book, it's in the second book where she and York connect. York is military. I believe he's an Army Ranger. And yes, he's an Army Ranger, and he is looking for his brother. He's originally from the DC area. He's looking for his brother who's been into drugs. And so he is trying to connect with the brother, and he happens to walk past this house in DC, and he sees this girl who's adorable. And he talks about how hot her butt is. And there's a little spark, like there's a recognition between them, but he just keeps on walking. And then he hears a woman wailing at one point, and he's like, I wonder if it's her. And then she's always on his mind. So we actually see them connect in the second book, but these books are not very long. I think the first 5 are out right now. Totally worth it. You have, it's post-apocalyptic, but you have that found family as well. And there's also some other bad and things going on. And I really, really enjoyed this series. I cannot wait for it to be finished. It kills me that she doesn't write faster. I wish she could write faster, but it's definitely worth the wait for all the books. So what's your first?
Okay, my first is Stolen Moments by Catharine Maura. This follows, have you read this?
No.
Okay. It follows Amelia and Carter. And book 1, it's a trilogy. Book 1 is high school, book 2 is college, and book 3 is adulthood. Normally I am not a fan of time jumps because usually time jumps mean like this huge space in time over this couple that's supposedly like madly in love is usually not together. And I hate that because if this couple is like destined to be together, like there shouldn't be time jumps. Like we should be getting to the end goal here, people. But this book has time jumps because of the way the trilogy is set up, and I actually didn't mind it. It made sense. The author does a really great job. So Amelia is Carter's younger sister, Kate. They're best friends. And Amelia's dad is a single dad, and he works a lot. And so she ends up over at Kate's house a lot of the time. Like that's where she has dinner. They do all their homework together. They're now teenagers, but Kate's mom is kind of like Amelia's mom too. Well, the one thing that Kate has always said is because her brother is very popular and Kate has struggled with other girls trying to befriend her only because they have a crush on Carter. And so Kate has always like made Amelia promise, like, you won't go there. Well, Amelia and Carter kind of have this like frenemies type friendship enemy thing where they're constantly pulling pranks on each other. And as you can see where this is going to go, this is their story. So this is how they end up together. Kate is, I'll be quite honest, she's an awful character. I feel like she's pretty selfish and Amelia deserves a better best friend than her. Amelia really kind of struggles to reconcile her growing feelings with Carter. And so the book kind of goes back and forth a little bit. Lots of stuff happens in this book, things that kind of took me by surprise. Kate's selfish behavior. Mm-hmm. But the series was really good. I loved it. I went from book 1 to book 2 to book 3 very quickly. I rated it a 5 for all the books. On Goodreads, all the books were like 4, I think 4.16 was the lowest, and they're all higher than that. So lots of other readers agree that this is a good read. If you can just get past Kate. I don't know. Kate, oh yeah, Kate is rough. Very good series though. And like I said, that time jump did not impact me as much as I thought it would. I think it probably would have bothered me if I had to like wait in between books for them to come out. But since the trilogy is done, it was an easy like read all 3. So very good progression from high school to adulthood. I know you don't usually care for high school, but this starts with their relationship in high school and how it progresses.
Yeah, I don't mind it when it does that. It's when it's set completely in high school because first of all, we've been out of high school for a hot minute. Okay. So just a hot minute. I mean, it was just a couple years ago, but I cannot picture, I have to age up my characters. I'm sorry, but I can't picture high school boys to me are not attractive. I have a high school boy. I have a 17-year-old that is not attractive to me. I have a 15-and-a-half-year-old daughter who likes high school boys. They're not cute. Okay. And I'm sorry, but they're just not. And then you have like, they're supposed to be like badass characters. What a high schooler's a badass out there. So anyhow, I can't. I have a hard time. It has to be done in a certain way. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah. What's your book? Okay. Sorry for the rant. Next. So my first one, we talked about this in, I talked about this series in our Christmas book haul because I got these for Christmas. But this is Newly Undead in Dark River by Grace McGinty. I love this series. There's 4 books. I have the first 3 right now. So you have Newly Undead in Dark River, Happily Undead in Dark River, and then Pleasantly Undead in Dark River. And the 4th one actually just came out a month or 2 ago, and there's like a huge time jump between the 3rd and the 4th. But these books are a lot of fun. They're definitely paranormal. The story starts out with, I think that the name is Micah. It's spelled M-I-K-A. So it could be Mika, but I think it's Micah. She wakes up in a drainage ditch outside, like right next to a sign that says, "Welcome to Dark River." And she wakes up and she's got memory loss. She's not sure how she got there. She'd been traveling through Canada, but she's not sure how she got there and really doesn't know what's happening to her. And so she gets to, she stumbles into the town and she goes to this diner. And like I was telling Mandy, we live like 20 minutes away from where Once Upon a Time was filmed when it was still being filmed. And I used to go and watch we'd go and watch the filming when they were actively doing it. We had a lot of fun doing that. But that's what I picture. That little town in Once Upon a Time is what I picture. And then especially the diner. So she stumbles into the diner and all eyes are on her. She looks like death because, newly dead, but she looks like death because she's been dragged through a storm, like a drainage ditch. And she gets there and she's like, dang, I'm like thirsty and hungry. And, or I think she says hungry. I can't remember. But, you know, it's not for actual food. And she just hasn't quite figured it out yet. The sheriff gets called in, who's this young hot sheriff in the town. Come to find out, the whole town is vampire. They're all vampires. And there's these laws that they have to abide to stay in this town. Like they can't drink from a human. They can't turn someone. They, you know, there's all these laws. And there's this mystery around who did it? Who turned her? Someone is actively after her. But like, so, and we think it's that person, like who turned her, who drank from her, why, like what's the deal? And so you have that mystery involved. You also have, because it is a reverse harem, she does get herself a harem, and they all have their different specialties. So you do have shifters that show up. You do have, you know, the friend from high school that, or her bestest friend who's actually blind shows up. He's one of my favorite characters, by the way. But this one is 3 books, and the third book to me is absolutely hilarious. There is a guy in here who is like a psychopath, and he sees her, and everybody talks about him as, in the book, as this crazy guy. And he decides that he likes her, but he's like completely lost his mind. And so he sends her things that nobody would want. And they show up on the doorstep, and we get to a point where it just becomes absolutely hilarious, the things he sends to her and thinks that they're going to woo her to him. Just, it's funny. So I love this series. I highly recommend this series, especially if you like yourself a little bit of paranormal like I do. So Mandy, what you got for me?
Okay, so my next series is the Off Balance series by Lucia Franco. I would probably venture to say this is my favorite series that I've read to date. Lucia knows how to write a book. She knows how to draw you right in. And I instantly connected with the characters. I do want to say that I found myself loving this book. I felt for Kova. In real life, I would probably find this situation extremely concerning, but the way the book is written, it is not written concerning for me. It's fiction, but yet it doesn't feel concerning. So it is very taboo because she's 16. She goes to train at his gym. In the description, it talks about how Kova is friends with her father, but we really see very, very little of that friendship throughout the series. So it's not as if she's grown up around him. I think she's only met him like one time prior to this or something. They don't really know each other at all. So she goes to train at his gym. She wants to be a world-class gymnast. She wants to go for the gold. That is her dream, is to get to the Olympics. She's older, and so her dreams are kind of like it's either now or never type situation. She's very, very determined. She works through a lot of things that, I mean, most people would not be willing to even like get up from their bed to work through. And she works through while training insane amounts of time. This is obviously their love story. There's a total of 6 books. The series has like the 5 books about them. And then the 6th book just came out not long ago called Out of Bounds. And it kind of has some perspective from Kova. My favorite part, have you read it?
Me?
Yeah, Out of Bounds.
Oh, the Out of Bounds? No, not yet.
Okay, it is fantastic. At the end, Lucia Franco, the author, does an interview with Kova where she's asking him questions. And as I'm reading that, I do not feel like I'm reading author writing her fictional character's responses. It feels so true. Like he's still snarky. He's still Kova. It is hilarious. And like, it's so funny. He calls her out and he's like, you tell me, like, you're the author. It's so funny. I absolutely loved it. It got me very, very excited for Rhea's sister, or not her sister, her brother, Xavier, and her best friend Avery's story that Lucia's been teasing a little bit. I thought I saw it comes out in February. I really hope that is true. I can't wait to read that. So anyways, this follows their journey. A lot of people criticize this book because Kova is older. He's in his 30s. He's the gymnast instructor. He's her coach. He owns the gym. Like it seems like a very total power play type position for him. But Rhea goes for it. She is attracted to him and she does not hold back on that. He is in a relationship, which a lot of the book focuses on. And it doesn't stop Rhea. Doesn't stop Kova really either. But there are times where he is definitely trying to maintain that gymnast coach relationship and she's pushing the bounds on it. Again, if you read about this in a paper, you'd probably be very disgusted with it. But as a fictional work of art, it is amazing. I love this story. And when you're constantly having to remind yourself, these are fictional characters. That is a good book. Like the first book is 600 pages. And I saw where somebody made a comment on a Facebook post asking, is it worth it? There's 5 books and they're so long. And my answer, I responded and I'm like, I would read another 1,000 pages. Like it is so worth it. I read all 5 books in 4 days. And mind you, I'm a mom and I work full time. That is how much I was going to work on a couple hours of sleep. That's how addicted I was to this book. And I would be like, I have to go to sleep, and I would put it down and I would just lay there awake thinking about them and being like, oh, Kova, why did you do that? Or, oh, poor Rhea, or oh my gosh. And then I would be like, I'm just going to read until I can feel like a little more even about what's happening. Doesn't come. Like,
no, I remember that too. When I was reading it, it was right after my mastectomy. So I was just laying around doing nothing at that point in time because I couldn't do anything. But I finished all 5 books in like 2 days. I mean, I had to take breaks to take little naps, but I just could not get through it fast enough. I needed to know what happened, and those books are thick. So yeah.
But it is totally worth it. It's really hard to tell much more about what the series is about, because if you kind of talk about what's starting to happen in book 1, it gives away things that are going to happen in book 2 and 3 and 4. I never felt like this is her journey. She is trying to win that Olympic gold. So I never felt like Lucia Franco was just adding drama to add drama. Like this really just felt like this is their lives and this is what they're going through to get to certain points that, you know, there's goals and things like that. So I never felt at all like, oh, just additional drama. She was actually a gymnast herself. So that the book is very detailed on like the things that are happening. I never felt bored by that. I've read football romances where there's like, I love football, and there'll be like tons of stuff about the football game, and I'll be like, this is boring. I just want to get to the story. I never felt like that. When she's training, there's so much information. I never felt like any of it was wasted reading. So highly recommend it. Know that there's probably some triggers that
definitely. And I would say that with all of the books we recommend, just check your triggers. Your triggers are not our triggers, so we don't know what's going to trigger you. So just check them. Just check them. Just do that. You're an adult. Check your triggers. So my next set of books, which I'll show you this in a second. So it's the series is called The Mists of, I think you say it's Albion. It's Albion. I have no clue to say it. The first one is Iric. You want to know what drives me nuts? This. Who does this? This drives me insane. They're not one of them is the same size. Okay. There's 4 books in this series. So you have Iric, you have Ragnar, you have Ivar, and then you have Mangus. And I haven't read Mangus yet. I need to go back and read it. But these books start out with a young girl whose name is Paige in this book right here. And Paige, her whole life has been talking like, her mom dies when she's about 5, and she's playing in the woods behind their house, and she happens to touch the roots of this tree, and she basically falls through time. She goes back to like the early 700s, or not the early 700s, the 700s, back when the Vikings are sacking England. And so she falls through, she finds these young kids there's a boy and a girl when she gets there, and they're dirty and they talk funny, and they're just different from her. And she figures out pretty early on, I mean, when she's young, she really thinks, oh, they're just kids. But she figures out after a while that she's traveling through time. And so when she is in high school, she tells a friend, her dad makes her go see a psychologist because she's talking about non-existent people. She's talking about time traveling. She tried to tell people what was going on, and she just, she was a kid, right? And so after all these years, she stopped talking about it. Well, when she's in her late teens, early 20s, she's in college, she decides that she needs to go check on these kids. And so when she travels through time back to the 700s, she gets there and the village is on fire and something just isn't right. And so she realizes she's got to get out of there right away, even though she wants to figure out what's going on with her friends. And Vikings are there. They're raiding the village. They grab her. They take her. And so when they see her, they take her to their village, and the head Viking guy, the Jarl or whatever they call him, is like, oh, she's got all her teeth and she's been fed. She's got meat on her bones. She's not malnourished like everyone else. And so he decides that he is going to keep her. And so this book focuses on their story. She's trying to get back. She's wanting to know what happened to her friends. She's trying to figure all of that out and how she's going to, is she going to stay or is she going to go, and what's going to happen. So I really enjoyed this. All 4 of these books are about a different couple. So you get a different couple in each one. Like one of them is like the investigator that was investigating her disappearance because she's gone for a long time. And so they're looking for her. And then I think the other one is a best friend. And then the last book is like a prequel type book. You hear about another couple in the story, in the original story, and that's the book that you get in the 4th. But they're all time travel to this early 700s period.
My next series is a trilogy. It is the Grip trilogy. It's by Kennedy Ryan. It follows the love story of Bristol and Grip. Kennedy Ryan is a brilliant writer. She sucks you right in with her characters and their development and the emotions. The first book is pretty short. It's their background story, and I actually found myself crying for Bristol during this. The premise of the book is that Bristol's brother is a child actor, musician, and he's like famous, and his parents put a lot of pressure on him, and he's done. He doesn't want to go and play anymore. He just wants to be done. And so in turn, he just leaves the family and doesn't speak to his mom, dad, or Bristol anymore. And so when Bristol's in her late teens, she decides she wants a relationship with her brother. So she flies out to go see him. And he is really like concerned that she's coming, that his mom put her up to it. And so he's kind of withdrawn from her, and in turn has Grip basically be her companion for the week while he's still busy working and things like that, because he just doesn't trust her. So she spends most of her week out there with Grip, really starts to form a connection with them. They are a mixed race couple. So they have some really difficult conversations that are written so beautifully, and things happen. And then the second book is them when they're older. Grip is trying to win back Bristol. And it is so powerful. Like the things that happen to them, the way he loves her. Like I have never read a story where the hero loves someone like Grip loves Bristol. It is amazing writing. There's a lot of difficult conversations and topics that are brought up in this book. I found myself really thinking about things differently and just questioning, like, how would I feel in these situations? It deals with some heavy topics that might be sensitive for some readers. So I would definitely check some triggers on this one, but it is so worth the read and so worth their love story. So there were so many times where I felt like I needed to put these books down just so I could like take a deep breath and like breathe again, because I was so like laser focused on this, but I couldn't put the books down because I just had to know like what was going to happen next. How was this going to end? And so when I was done, it was just like a, whew, but oh, so much angst. And an author that can make me feel those emotions where like I physically feel it in my body, those are the books I want to read every day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So
what was yours?
Mandy's was all deep and heavy. Mine sure as heck is it.
Oh no!
One of my next series is another one by Grace McGinty. And this is her Mannix series. So there's 3 books out right now. The 4th one will be out hopefully later this year. Grace has gotten to a point where she doesn't like to do she stresses herself out when she puts deadlines and like puts dates and stuff out there. So she's decided this last year, she decided she's not doing that anymore. She's not going to stress herself out, and more power to her for that. That's just awesome. But so you've got Mannix.
Are these aliens?
No. And Feral. No. Hold on. I'll tell you what they are.
Just when you said that it wasn't as deep as mine, I'm like, oh, she's pulling out some alien stuff.
No. They're paranormal, okay? They're shifters. So in the first book, what they are, so they're called Mannix. That's what they are, is Mannix. They are a race of extinct or almost extinct supernatural beings, okay? She's laughing at me, people.
I'm sorry. Oh, it's just so funny. Like you can read like this twisted mafia books and then you're all like aliens, shifters.
Hey, I like it all. I am an equal opportunist here when it comes to romance.
You are a very diverse reader, that is for sure.
That's right, yes.
Okay, so tell me about these shifters.
Okay, so in the first book, the story is about, I think it's Nausea. I think that's how you say her name. And she is, well, she's taking care of a younger sibling or siblings, taking care of at least one. I can't remember 100% for sure. And because it's really hard to make ends meet, she is stripping. And so she is at work one night and she is stripping, and these huge, gorgeous guys come in, like this group of guys. And they realize that she's their mate. And there are not female Mannix anywhere. Like they're going extinct because they don't have females of their kind. And they realize that she is at least partly Mannix. So they literally pull her off the stage and walk out the door with her, and it causes a riot. It causes a mess. She's like, I have to go home. I have people there I have to get and pick up, because they're like, you're in danger, because if anybody else can tell that you're here, like they smell her, like it's a smell. Anyhow, if anybody else realizes that you're here, then you're in danger. And so we're taking you home. So they have like this community that they all live in. And so this is their story. I don't want to say too much because it totally takes away. I will let you know that because it is a reverse harem, there's like 5 or 6 guys. And that's just how the Mannix are supposed to be. I have no clue why all my books are reverse harem right now. I'm sorry. I have no clue.
How do women have time for that?
I don't, shoot, I can barely handle one. Are you kidding me?
When do they read their books?
I know. When do they read their books? This does have a little MM going on. And it does have impreg as well. Do you know what that is, Mandy? Do you?
Are you talking about the breeding kink or?
Where the man can get pregnant?
Oh.
I know. I was like, when I first started and I saw that, I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. I had feelings and they were interesting. So that's how she's able to do it. She don't have to carry the kids.
That's so weird. It was pointed out to me when I was trying to learn this new card game called Spades, where I'm pretty sure the person teaching us was making up the rules as they were going along. I was told that I just don't like things I don't understand. So I'm curious if I would feel that way about a book series like that.
It is really well explained how it happens. And you also have, for those who like it, it's also, they also have the designations, the Omegaverse designations too. You have Omegas, Betas, and Alphas in here. Each one of these books is a different, I don't even want to say couple. It's not couple. It's a different coupling, a different group, but we meet these people inside the Mannix community. And so once they have nausea, it like opens a door to other things, and it starts to bring on like it's like taking the seal off the bottle. Like all of a sudden things start to happen. My favorite honestly was the third one, the Feral. I'm really looking forward to the fourth one when it comes out. I really want to see those characters in their little happily ever after, but I loved all three. I do have to say, it took me a hot minute to get into Mannix when I first started. I was kind of like, I don't know. Like, I just didn't connect right away. But after the first 2 or 3 chapters, then I was sucked in. So just stick with it. But if you like, your paranormal and your shifters, you're going to like this. This is a great series to get involved in.
My next series is the Surviving Trace series by Calia Reed. I have to say, one of the most shocking things about this series is when I went to Amazon, it only has 590 reviews.
What does it have on Goodreads? I'll look while you tell them about it, but this is like hands down favorite series of all time.
Yeah, it is so good. I actually, when I read it, I wrote some notes about it back when I read it, months ago. I wrote, this series has ruined me for anything else. And I actually there's a Toni Braxton song, I'm probably dating myself. It's called Breathe Again. And go ahead.
It's 4.22 on the first book. It's 4.22 on
how many reviews though does it have? Because on Amazon it only has 590, and I don't understand.
So it has 4,616 ratings, but it only has 728 reviews.
4,600, that's like not enough. Like, this is like the most amazing series. It
really is. It is. And the second book is 419 and the third book is 47. It just throws me. But anyways, that song, Breathe Again, I was like, I'll never read again. I kept walking around singing that because I just loved this so much. The series I'm talking about only has 3 books in it, so it's a trilogy, but she has more books that focus around these same characters. There's The King of the South, and there's another one that's coming out, but I can't read her books that leave. Her cliffhanger books are too much for me, so I need them all to be done before I continue on. So Lady Golding is out, but it's split into 2 books. So the first half is out. Now, I refuse to read it until the second book is out. The second book should be out either this month or in February, I think.
I will be reading all of them when that happens. I'll read.
Yeah, I'll read them both when they happen. I'm the same way because I've been dying for this story. I am dying to see, these are side characters, but I am dying for this story. I can't do it until they're both out because I can't.
Okay. So Surviving Trace focuses on Serene. Serene is in pretty much our time. She is engaged to a man named Will. Things are great as far as she knows. She finds this picture of 4 men, and these are not spoilers. This is on like the description of the book. She ends up in a different time.
I think it was 1911.
1912.
1912. Yeah. So here's the
and everybody seems to know her where she lands in this 1912. She's kind of at this like ball party type thing. Everyone seems to know her. This man stalks over to her, grabs her, starts chewing her out. And she has no idea. Like, she's not this person that she thinks that she is. So apparently here she's married to a man named Etienne. ATN. Sorry.
ATN. Yeah. No, right. It's ATN. You have to get it right. It's ATN.
ATN. Okay. In my mind, I read it differently, but okay.
It is ATN.
She is married to him in this time, and she can't figure out what's going on, and she doesn't know what to do. eventually she kind of starts to talk to him, and like she's like, I'm not who you think I am. And he kind of realizes this because she's not mean to him.
Because his wife is very,
yes, they had a very volatile marriage. It was not of love.
She was very selfish.
Yes. So this follows their relationship. She is trying to figure out how to get back to modern time, but as she stays there, she begins to question, does she want to go back? And so the 3 books take her are on that journey. So you can kind of think a little Outlander, but better. I've never read the Outlander books. I actually have them, but I haven't read them. I watched the series, love the series, but I love the Surviving Traces.
Yeah, I read the first Outlander book, but I will take the Surviving Trace over Outlander any day.
Yes. So this just follows her journey on like, what is she supposed to do? How does she get back home? Does she want to get back home? I don't want to give anything away because I feel like if you know anything more than what I've said, it's too many spoilers. You just need to read it. Trust me, it is like the best. If you like historical fiction, you will love this as well. There's the time travel aspect. It is so angsty. And book 2, have a box or 2 of Kleenex ready. I basically cried from page 1 to the end of the book, like hyperventilating, crying.
Right.
So
and Calia Reed she's an amazing author where I saw somebody was like poo-pooing this on Goodreads at one point, and I couldn't, to each his own, but I couldn't fathom it because they were saying that it's ridiculous how we don't need to know what every room looked like. And I'm like, yes, I do. I do need to know that. And Calia Reed has this way of like describing each room in the plantation, the dresses, the clothing of that period when Serena's getting dressed. And her writing is absolutely beautiful and descriptive. And I know some people may not need it, but I needed that because you're time traveling back into the early 1900s. Now, I don't know about you, but I wasn't born then. I didn't live then. I need to know, right? I mean, I need to know what the rooms look like. My brain needs that. And I love that she was so descriptive about that. She's a beautiful author.
I never felt bored at all because you're reading the descriptions through Serene's view, like she's taking it in. So I felt like I'm Serene. I am there. I am seeing all of what's happening with her. I was never ever bored during that series. So highly recommend it. She takes you on an emotional roller coaster that is so enjoyable.
Yeah. And I mean, it's one of those things where like, now that we're talking about it and I read it a couple times a year, I'm like, I think I need to read it again. And when I do the rereads, I mean, this just tells you how great of an author and how great of a series it is. When I do the rereads, the emotions are there. I know what is going to happen. I've read the book several times or read all 3 of them several times. I know what's going to happen, but those emotions are still there and still just as strong as the first time I read it. So definitely. Yes. So okay. my last series is called The Alpha Awakens, and it's by Anna Fury. So this is another one that's it's paranormal. It's kind of got shifters in it. It's kind of post-apocalyptic. I found it just this year. Anna Fury was another new to me author in 2022. So this one is about a girl named Mallory. And she's living in the New York area because apparently in all these books, they live in the New York area. I haven't figured that one out yet. But she's living in the New York area and this virus comes through and it only affects men. And they call it the awakened virus. And so when it hits these guys, it turns them completely savage and feral. So everybody believes that is what the government has led them to believe. Her own brother has gone through this where he, got hit by it when he was coming home and he came into the house and tried to attack them. And it's very sad where she discusses her brother at the very part of the book. So at this point, she's living in an apartment. Her bestie is living next door to her and they go everywhere in pairs because it's just not safe. Women are being hunted by what they believe to be an underground pack of these feral guys that have been hit with this awakened virus. One day she's on the way home from the grocery store. Her bestie who had walked with her, but she had to go to work. She was a nurse. She got called in, so she went the opposite direction. And she can feel that someone is stalking her. She can feel that someone is following her. And what happens is this person comes to attack her. It is a feral guy, and he gets ran off by another one. Now, when these guys are afflicted by this, they become these huge alpha males. Like their shoulders, they get taller. They're like close to 7 feet. They just get absolutely huge. And this guy protects her. There's something about her that he's attracted to, and he leaves, but then he comes back like the next day, and he finds out that she is a reporter. And he tells her, look, we're not bad. I can sit and hold a conversation with you. That's just a little phase to what we're going through. We have a pack that lives upstate New York, and will you please come and stay with us for a couple of weeks, and then write a story about what is happening to the men in our in the world right now. And so she agrees to go and stay with him and the rest of the pack. She meets the leader and there is like that alpha omega dynamic as well, because they're different now. So you meet all that. It is very interesting. I love, like, you do have the government kind of involved. You do have, because they're trying to keep these things out. You do have the guy's name is Orion, by the way. Love him. But eventually they start to fall for each other. There is this instant attraction with them, but they start to fall for each other. But we see that there's more to meet the eye of what's going on with these guys. And each book in the series is a different character. We start to find out more about who they are and what happened and how this happened as you go through it. There is some paranormal that goes into it because they start to develop abilities. There is a shifting that happens, like a shifter ability that's been talked about that in the first book that you don't quite see yet, but they do discuss that it happens. So anyhow, so that is what this is. It is paranormal, sci-fi-ish, shiftery-ish, but I loved this whole series. She just put the first book out on audio. I haven't listened to it yet, but definitely one of my favorites from 2022. So Mandy, what's your last one?
Okay, my last series is Did I Mention I Love You by Estelle Maskame. I hope I'm saying that right. This is another hidden gem type series because on Amazon, it has like 1,400 ratings. That's it. I can't believe it. But it's rated on Amazon at a 4.5 or higher for all the books. So it is amazing. And I don't know why more people aren't reading it. So there's 4 books in this series. And then there is a 5th like follow-up book called Did I Mention It's 10 Years Later? So the 4 books follow Eden and Tyler. And Eden is a high schooler who is going to go spend the summer with her estranged father. She has not seen him in several years. He is recently remarried and has 3 stepsons. So she goes to see him, all basically very awkward because she's never met her stepmom. She's never met the stepbrothers, and she really doesn't know her dad at all because he upped and left, and she's had very little contact with him. So basically she's going to go spend the summer with strangers. Her dad is pretty closed off. Stepmom is and then there's the 3 stepbrothers. Well, Tyler is 1 year older than her, and she starts to make some friends there and ends up kind of in his friend group a little bit. So there's like going to the pier and hanging out, there's partying and things like that. So they're kind of thrown together, plus they live in the same house. She starts to have feelings for him. As she's trying to basically figure him out, like figure out what makes him tick. He's got some anger problems. He's got a really big ego, but she kind of feels like, is the ego covering something? But she doesn't really know what, but she thinks something is. And Tyler does have a lot of baggage, and we find out more about that throughout the series. But he's her stepbrother. But again, this is a stepbrother she just met as an older teen, not somebody she's been raised with or anything like that. So they kind of had developed feelings for each other. He has a girlfriend that is basically blackmailing him. She's just not a nice person, but he's with this girl, and there's some jealousy on Eden's part. And then there's also just this big part of like, we're step siblings. And all of this basically starts to blow up in their face. And then they have to figure out like, how is there a relationship? If so, is it worth putting everybody else to the side, like our family? And how do we move forward with this relationship, if we want this relationship? So it is super good. It questions a lot of things. Like one of my favorite quotes from the book is loving someone the same as being in love with them. And so there's just a lot of questions through this, and there's a lot of hurt and anger and healing that needs to be done, but it is so beautifully written. I mean, that the forbidden angst of like the stepbrother is what was like, oh, this sounds interesting. Like, how's the author going to work this? And that's why I decided to read it, but you get so much more out of this series. It is an epic series. I highly recommend it. And yes, it does start when they're in high school. That's just book 1. And then book 2 is like a year later. And so we're not stuck in high school realm. And I never felt like I was reading anything childish at all. So highly recommend that series.
Awesome.
Or I wouldn't be talking about it, right?
What? What'd you say?
I said, or I wouldn't be talking about it if I didn't highly recommend it in our favorites. I mean, and spill the tea. I'm sure we'll talk about books that we wouldn't recommend that we've read, but for our favorites, definitely going to recommend them. But and solid 5. All the books were a solid 5 for me.
Yeah. And it's worth noting that if you were to ask us in a couple days what our favorite series would be, they'd be completely different, because Mandy and I had this discussion about a week ago, and I had a completely different set of books that I was going to talk about. And then yesterday I was like, no, I want to talk about these other ones. So we have a lot of favorites. These were just 5 from each of us of the favorites of the favorites. So
yeah, I changed. I mean, when we were planning this out, I was like, these are the books I'm going to use. And then I changed it, I think twice when I was doing it. So we could definitely, like, in a month re-record.
Yes,
our favorites video. Do another whole video.
Exactly. We can just keep going and going. So anyhow, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below. Obviously we'll take all the likes we can get as well. Mandy, what should we have them answer in the comments?
Oh, I have 2 things. One, tell us in the comments if you have read any of the series we've talked about. And 2, tell us what your favorite series is.
Definitely. I look forward to seeing those answers. So until the next one, we will see you guys later.
Yes. Check back every Monday and Thursday for new videos.
Yep. Bye.